Every 30 seconds, a child or teen is sold into slavery. Every January, we highlight the issues and crises surrounding human trafficking in our country. But there is legal recourse for anyone who finds themselves in this situation. We're joined by Laura Stemkowski, attorney with Motley Rice Law Firm. We're glad to have you with us because you are the saving grace for a lot of people who have been victimized. And if we can talk just a bit about how victims come to you for your services and the work that you do on their behalf.
Sure. So we get a lot of clients directly they come to us. They come through on our websites or they come through our co-counsel networks across the country. And what people don't realize is that there's always a criminal component to trafficking cases, but what they don't realize is that there's also civil remedies available for victims. And that's not necessarily against the actual human trafficker, because there is kind of a culture around trafficking, and there's an industry built up around it that allows these traffickers to do what they do to the victims.
And escape the law in many
Yes.
cases. Is it challenging to try to nail them down?
The laws have been changing across the country, which are allowing more civil lawsuits against hotel industries, transportation, food and beverage industries, and even things that you don't think about, like forestry. Yeah.
Could you please explain? Yeah.
Sure. So in South Carolina, the largest labor trafficking is in forestry. And so a lot of people will be brought into the state, or maybe they already live here, and they're brought in on a job not realizing that they're going to be forced to work long hours, not be paid, or maybe their IDs, their passports, any type of identification could be taken from them, and they'd be forced to work.
Private companies that are hiring these workers?
So it depends. Sometimes it can be an independent contracting agency which brings in workers, and then they work for a private company, and we have to make the connection between the private company, the independent contractor, and the trafficked person to hold both companies accountable.
How many times are these young people victimized multiple times, not just by the trafficker, but by the system itself?
The victimization often starts before they're even trafficked. Traffickers will prey upon people who come from either they're homeless, or they are dealing with loss of income in the family, or no parents, or abusive parents, or they've been sexually abused by a family member before. So they come to us and they have been abused at home, abused by a trafficker, and then say they get picked up for prostitution or panhandling, and they have another criminal charge, even though they were doing nothing wrong.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they don't have much say when you're that young. You can't really do much to stop the process. And South Carolina, though, is doing a better job, though, at recognizing who truly is a victim and who is a criminal.
Absolutely.
And not confusing the two.
Absolutely.
Okay. What are the remedies, typically?
Right. So you can file a civil action. Traditionally, in the cases where we've represented individuals, we are looking at the hotel industries or the mechanisms that have brought about the trafficking. So be it the transportation or the hotels, and you sue the hotels in civil state court or federal court. We've sued in both. And for labor trafficking, we've even sued internationally.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So when you're talking about the remedies also against not just the hotels, but what about those who procure the services? Are you able to track them down, and have you had any success in filing lawsuits and winning? Unfortunately,
not against the people who actually engage in the act with the trafficked person. Monetarily, they typically don't have the money that would be able to in most cases, to be able to compensate someone who is a victim of trafficking, whereas hotels who are nationwide conglomerates have the funds and have policies in place to detect trafficking. And so it's incumbent upon the local franchises to recognize the signs of human trafficking and report it.
Yeah, I realize it's an uphill battle, but you're doing wonderful work. Thank you so much, Laura, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We're back after this.